How do you think a financial advisor could or should act like an admired leader?
Well, if you think about leadership and making situations and people better, they are leading their clients. And if they're not leading their clients, something's seriously wrong, right? So they should be thinking about who I am, what I am, but also, what is it that is my particular situation, and how do they make it better, and how do they make me a better partner in the process, and based on what I need and what I think I want, and so forth and so on, right? So getting people heard, understanding their risk appetites, all the normal stuff that everybody on your listeners know, but using that work in order to intentionally, right, help improve and grow not just the assets but the person themselves, the relationship also. That's a pretty important part of all of this, because at the end of the day, this is all about relationships. You and I both know you can do great work and not maintain a relationship, and what a waste of time and energy. So most of your advisors are more in the relationship business than they think, and they're a lot less in the financial advice business than they think, right? And I know that would be controversial, but I'd argue that one comes before the other, right? If you're not any good at building relationships, you're not going to grow a incredible practice. At the same time, you're not going to grow that incredible practice unless you offer some pretty sound advice too.
Yeah.
So one's more is requisite, but it's not sufficient, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Are there any admired leadership behaviors that you think might be unique to financial advisors?
No. I mean, relationships are relationships are relationships, and it's just like leadership is. And the best, behaviors are universal. They apply in all cases. That doesn't mean that there aren't some things that you would do specifically as an advisor. You would do it other places, but you might emphasize it more as an advisor, kinds of things. It just depends, and it depends on who you're dealing with. Let me tell you, like, I'm in the business of, promoting, what I do, right? And I run a large organization of coaches, right? And I've learned this a long time ago. So I deal with a lot of very high level, high profile people, CEO types and everything else. And so, it might surprise you, but when I go into in conversation with those people, which probably are not dissimilar in terms of the client set of your listeners, one of the first things I do when I get in those environments is I try to find a place to disagree. Like, and people would go, really? I mean, because I've been taught, like, I want to be likable, and I go, I want you to be likable too. I want to be likable too, but I want people to trust me. And anybody, right? When first, if you disagree with someone, right, and really make a good and sound argument, right, as to what, like, who does that? But somebody that's willing to tell you the truth. And by the way, that tends to be my brand. I tend to be very candid, and I don't smash people on the head with truth. I don't want to be offensive or unpalatable with the truth, but I always want to be more candid, because that's my real role as an advisor coach,
Hmm.
right? So I go in there looking. Now, sometimes I can't find it, right? But boy, if I can disagree early in a conversation with a prospective client, I go right for the disagreement, because I want to prove to them that they can trust that I'm going to tell them what I really think. Now, that doesn't work every time, but it works more in my advantage. At least I've convinced myself it does. It works more in my advantage than the downside, right? And I build really trusting relationships with people because of my candidness. Now, that's me, and that's how I approach it. But it wouldn't be surprising to me that a lot of your advisors should be disagreeing with their potential or prospective clients more than they actually think. Now, some people are smiling when they listen to this, because they go, "I disagree all the time. I'm dealing with people that don't know what they're talking about," right? And yeah, that's the simple way of disagreement. But disagreeing on something truly, of substance, where you have taken a position where they have also taken a very strong position, and saying, "Hey, I want to disagree agreeably, by the way. I want to say, you have a right to your position. I want to say, hey, that makes sense. I understand where you're coming from, but here's what my experience says, and this is kind of how I see it. And so I have a different view than you do, right? And do that early. Now, that's just one example. I'm not arguing that that's the tactic or strategy of everything, but I can think of lots of things that advisors might be doing relationally that might be a little bit different than we do in most relationships. Like, I'm not establishing like, if I'm trying to find, with new friends, new neighbors, I'm not looking for a place to disagree very early. Okay, I mean, that's just not going to, go well, right? But I would with prospective clients in that case. So there are
Hmm.
some things we do with clients that are a little bit different. But how you add value, the kinds of ways you build trust, how you congratulate, how thankful and grateful you are, some of the things you do to include people. Those are all universal things to building great relationships, and they work no matter what arena you're in.